Local legends speak of a small, forgotten house hidden deep within the woods. It has sat quietly beneath ancient oak trees for generations, waiting for a specific person to find it. One autumn evening, a young woman named Amelia found herself caught in those very woods. She had been hiking for hours, her energy drained as a cold, heavy rain began pouring through the swaying branches above. The dirt path she had been following vanished under a layer of wet leaves. Every direction, left, right, forward, and backward, looked identical, turning the forest into a maze of gray and brown. She took shelter beneath the sprawling branches of a massive oak. Standing in the wind, a sense of total isolation washed over her. Exhausted and lost, Amelia had reached a point of complete vulnerability. The forest had stripped away her direction, leaving her exposed to the chaos of the wilderness. Then, a flicker appeared. Through the dense trees in the distance, a steady, warm, golden light pierced the dark. She forced herself toward it, dragging her boots through the mud. While the storm battered her, that unwavering glow remained steady. As she reached the structure, the details were unsettling. No footprints near the porch, no smoke from the chimney, and no sound from within. She knocked twice. From inside, a clock began to tick. Then, without anyone turning the handle, the door opened. Stepping over the threshold marks a transition from the unpredictable outside world into a space that feels intentional and safe. The moment her feet touched the floorboards, the storm vanished. A crackling fire radiated heat from a hearth, and the sound of the rain stopped instantly, but only for her. She glanced back through the open doorway. The forest outside looked distant and muted, as if she were viewing it through a thick window, severed from the cold. The room seemed prepared for her. A chair sat waiting by the fire, and on a nearby table, a fresh cup of tea sent steam into the air. Resting beside the tea was a handwritten note. Amelia's heart began to beat faster as she read the 6 words scrawled on the paper. "You have been expected for years." The house was methodically neutralizing her stress, replacing the hazards of the forest with specific elements designed for her safety. Suddenly, the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock stopped, bringing a stillness to the entire room. The clock hands were locked at exactly midnight. Yet when Amelia checked her phone, the time in the outside world was only 11:47 p.m. In the silence, she heard slow, gentle footsteps walking across the floorboards directly above her. A soft voice whispered her name from the top of the stairs. Amelia recognized it immediately. It was the voice of her grandmother, who had passed away 12 years ago. The sanctuary functions as a psychological construct, pulling from personal memories to strip away the standard flow of time. The clock began ticking once again, but the second hand was moving backward. Following the sound, Amelia climbed the stairs and entered a bedroom bathed in light. On a writing desk sat a photograph. It showed an 8-year-old Amelia standing in front of this very house, holding her grandmother's hand. Her family had always insisted she had never been to these woods as a child, but the physical proof in her hands told a different story. The back of the photograph was dated October 14th, matching the date on the wall calendar today. 12 years of separation were suddenly collapsing into a single moment. The house serves as a physical point where memory and the present meet, allowing Amelia to inhabit a piece of her own past. At the end of the hallway, a door with no handle opened into darkness. From inside, her grandmother's voice called out one last time, inviting her to enter. Despite her instinct to leave, Amelia realized she had been searching for this specific moment of release her entire life. She stepped into the room, and the door to the house slowly closed behind her. Outside, the forest came to a halt. Raindrops hung motionless in midair, falling leaves locked in place, and the moon stopped moving across the sky. Peace is reached when the momentum of the waking world is suspended, allowing the traveler to finally stop and rest.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to take a slow, really ethereal dive into a beautiful piece of literature to uncover exactly how our minds build these incredible dreamscapes to protect us from pain. We're looking at a deeply moving sleeping story called The House Where Time Stood Still. And wow, it is just a fascinating look at psychology, all wrapped up in this hauntingly beautiful narrative.
So, to kick things off, we really have to ask the profound question that drives our protagonist, Amelia's entire journey. It perfectly sets that atmospheric tone of this literal and figurative bedtime story. Where do our memories go when we actually ask to forget them? Like, do they just vanish into thin air? Or do they wait for us somewhere in the dark, just patiently suspended until we're finally ready for them? And you know, this brilliantly illustrates the core metaphor of our sleeping story. This house that Amelia finds herself in, it is absolutely not a physical building made of bricks and mortar. It's a subconscious vault. Amelia isn't just, exploring some dark, spooky mansion. She's actually navigating the intricate architecture of her own subconscious mind. Literally a place where unfelt grief and repressed memories are kept completely frozen in time.
Section 1. Entering the sleeping story. A journey inward.
So our protagonist, Amelia, steps into this completely silent darkness, right? That is until a small golden light appears in the distance. She follows it step by step, and the darkness slowly fades. This perfectly mirrors the onset of a vivid dream, or even the slow creeping awakening of a deeply buried memory. It's the classic entry point into a sleeping story, moving straight from nothingness into a highly constructed mental reality. Section 2, the hallway of time, visualizing the subconscious. Now, in this really eerie, non-linear space, the house visualizes her timeline in a truly terrifying way. Imagine a hallway lined with hundreds of photographs mapping out a totally disjointed timeline of Amelia's life. First, she sees her childhood, standing beside her grandmother in a moment she can't even remember. But then, as she keeps walking, it gets terrifying. She sees herself older, at 60, and eventually as an old woman standing entirely alone. The subconscious is literally showing her terrifying unlived futures. It's basically a visual manifestation of her deepest anxieties.
Right in the middle of this dizzying state of panic, Amelia hears a gentle voice. She turns around to see her deceased grandmother, a face she's dreamed of for 12 years but thought was just gone forever. And her grandmother delivers this beautifully simple truth. Not everything that is gone is truly lost. I mean, what a powerful moment, right? It reminds us that whatever we lock away in our minds is still waiting for us. It hasn't vanished at all. It's just hidden away in the architecture of the house.
But there's a huge catch to this hidden place. Amelia starts noticing something strange in every single photograph. A clock, a watch, some kind of timepiece, and it's always showing exactly midnight. Why midnight? Well, as her grandmother explains, midnight is the place between two moments. Think about it. On the left, you have yesterday, the old day that is gone. On the right, tomorrow, the new day that hasn't begun yet. Time outside is moving, literally. The rain is frozen midair outside the window. But inside this sleeping story, Amelia is entirely stuck in the space between yesterday and tomorrow. It's such a perfect metaphor for being trapped in trauma, completely unable to let go of the past or to face the future. Section 3, the mirror of memory, facing the truth. Next, her grandmother opens a small white door with no handle, and it leads to a room with just a single chair and a large mirror. Amelia steps inside and looks into the mirror, but she doesn't see her adult self, no. Instead, she sees a vision of herself at just 8 years old, standing in a forest, holding a small wooden box and just crying. The absolutely crucial point here is what exactly happened to that 8-year-old girl. We can break down this incredibly heavy psychological journey into 4 distinct steps. Step 1, she senses the pain. She just knows, somehow, that her mother is going to die, that she will leave, and her dad will become incredibly sad. Step 2, she fears that future immensely. Step 3, she actively asks to forget. She literally begs her grandmother in the memory, "I don't want to feel sad. Can you make me forget?" And finally, step 4, the house takes the burden. Her subconscious steps in and freezes time at midnight just to protect a child who simply wasn't ready to carry that much pain. So now we understand the repression. The house didn't bring her here to torture her. It brought her here to show her exactly why she had forgotten in the first place. But listen, understanding the repression is only the first step. Next, she has to actually choose whether she is ready to heal. Section 4, unlocking the past, the silver key. Remember earlier in the hallway when her grandmother reached into her pocket and handed Amelia something she really didn't want? A tiny silver key? Well, now a new door appears at the end of the hall. It's old, it's dark, and it's covered in these tiny golden lines. That tiny silver key is the symbolic tool Amelia deeply needed to unlock this final, ancient door of her trauma. So Amelia places the key in the lock and turns it. Click. Warm light spills out into the dark hallway, revealing this impossible sight, a peaceful summer garden where her late mother is sitting, smiling and waiting for her. And right before Amelia steps through, her grandmother offers this final, incredibly powerful piece of wisdom. Remember, some memories are meant to be remembered, some are meant to be released. It just perfectly captures the dual nature of grief. We hold on to the love and the connection, for sure, but we absolutely have to release the frozen grip of the trauma.
Section 5. Time moves again, the awakening. The very moment Amelia bravely steps through that door toward the painful memory of her mother, the repression finally breaks, and it triggers an incredible chain reaction. Amelia steps through, and immediately, those midnight clocks, they start ticking. The eerie hallway photographs totally vanish. Outside the window, that frozen rain finally begins to fall. Time is allowed to move forward again because Amelia is finally standing face to face with the exact memory she spent her entire life trying to forget. She is no longer trapped at midnight. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into this remarkable sleeping story. I'm going to leave you with a rather provocative question to ponder long after this explainer ends. What hidden doors are waiting in your own subconscious house, holding the memories you asked to forget? Because in a way, we all build internal houses to store the pain we just aren't quite ready to face. Thank you so much for joining me. Keep exploring your own hallways, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a collective breath and slowing things way down. You know that feeling when your mind is just racing at night and you can't switch off? Well, today we're decoding a literal masterclass in sleeping story making, the house where time stood still. We're going to deconstruct the exact, under-the-hood narrative mechanics that make this story work so perfectly, and see how it's expertly engineered to lull a restless mind into absolute peace.
Okay, let's dive into this. What exactly makes a story feel like a dream? I mean, I used to think it was all just about fairies, magic, or soft, whispery words, but it turns out it is highly structural. It's a meticulously crafted mechanical construct. Every single sentence, every sensory detail, and every emotional beat is engineered with one singular purpose: to soothe your nervous system.
Section 1. The Anatomy of a Dream.
So any good sleep story follows a really specific arc. It's a descent into the subconscious, a release of tension, and then a safe return to reality. To start that descent, you have to actively pull the reader out of their waking anxiety. Listen to the generous negative space around these words. The sun was shining. The grass was soft beneath her feet. The author relies on these hypnotic, short, almost staccato sentences. When you read this or hear it spoken out loud, it naturally forces you to just slow down. You have to pause. You take a breath. It physically mimics the onset of sleep by lowering your heart rate right from the very jump. And then there's this brilliant narrative trick involving the number 8. The moment our protagonist, Amelia, enters this dreamlike garden and sees her mother waiting for her, she instantly regresses to feeling exactly 8 years old. Because, let's face it, adulting is absolutely exhausting. By doing this, the author completely strips away all those adult complexities, the daily schedules, the stress, the whole shebang. It instantly establishes a primal state of vulnerability and innocence, which is a totally crucial first step for the psychological unburdening that has to happen before you can get to deep sleep. Section 2. Building a sensory dreamscape. Right, so once the pacing has successfully slowed down your breathing, the next mechanical step in sleeping story making is to engineer an environment that actively soothes you. Think about warm summer air, singing birds, the scent of flowers in a garden, the warmth of a mother's arms, and a gentle, familiar voice. These aren't just pretty words thrown in to fill the page. They are very specific, gentle sensory anchors. This is a massive staple technique in mindfulness storytelling. When your mind is drifting or just racing with nighttime anxiety, when you're frustrated just trying to count sheep, these vivid, comforting touch points effectively ground you. They give a tired, overworked brain something incredibly safe and warm to hold on to. Section 3. Creating complete emotional safety. Now we reach the absolute core psychological mechanism of the sleep story. To
To truly rest, the subconscious has to feel safe enough to put down its heavy defenses and finally address those lingering anxieties. We see this internal tension resolved perfectly here. Amelia expresses her deep-seated guilt to her mother. "I thought it was my fault. If I had tried harder, maybe you would still be here." And her mother provides this incredibly direct, comforting response. "You were a child. You were never responsible for saving me." For 12 years, Amelia has been lugging around this massive weight. Her mother's words provide an absolute release of that guilt. This is what we call the ultimate emotional unclenching required for restorative rest. You literally cannot sleep if your soul is clenched tight, and this scene acts as the perfect narrative release valve.
Happiness doesn't erase love, it carries it forward. This is a huge moment. Amelia realizes that every time she refused to be happy, she was really just trying to stay close to the mother she lost. She mistakenly thought that moving on meant forgetting. This profound realization shatters a 12-year pattern of self-punishment. By framing happiness as a way to carry love forward, the narrative provides this deep, immediate psychological relief.
Section 4. The mechanics of catharsis.
So we're at the climax of the dreamscape now, ready to really lift that emotional weight. Notice how time functions here. Amelia carried a burden of guilt that never belonged to her for 12 agonizing years, yet she steps into this mysterious house for just one single night. By the time she checks her phone outside, it's 7:12 a.m., and she wakes up with a much lighter step. The story intentionally contrasts the massive, perceived timeline of grief against the incredibly short, literal timeline of the healing dream. It's sending a subliminal message right to the listener. A beautifully crafted sleep story has the power to process immense emotional weight in just one condensed, single night of rest.
Which brings us directly to catharsis, the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. The source material explicitly notes that when Amelia wakes back up inside the house holding a white flower her mother gave her, she begins to cry. But they aren't tears of fear, they are, quote, tears of release. This marks the exact mechanical moment the catharsis happens. She's crying because she has finally truly stopped trying to bring her mother back. The tension is completely broken.
Section 5. Waking to a new morning.
Let's move 2 and see how this builds into the waking sequence. A sleep story cannot just drop you abruptly at the emotional climax, right? It has to safely deposit you back into reality. Notice this gentle, sequential fading of the magical world. First, the garden fades and the sky becomes golden. Then, the trees become transparent. Next, she's back inside the house, where the fireplace burns and a clock ticks. Finally, outside, the rain stops and morning light appears. These are precise, highly calculated steps used to transition a reader's subconscious back to the waking world. It is a slow, careful fade out from the ethereal right back to the tangible.
And once she's back, notice what happens to the environment. The clocks start ticking normally, the magical photographs are gone, the impossible door without a handle, it simply disappears. The house becomes completely, wonderfully ordinary. Amelia's grandmother smiles and tells her, "You don't need the house anymore." This signals to the reader that the heavy emotional work is done. The magic dissolving into the ordinary reinforces a profound sense of safety and normalcy for the listener.
Which brings us to this incredibly beautiful realization. The past is not a place you can live, it is only a place you can visit. During her dream, Amelia's mother tells her the magical house is closing specifically because Amelia finally remembered this exact truth. She had spent 12 years standing at a metaphorical door, totally afraid to move forward into her own life. The realization that a whole life is waiting for her outside is the psychological key that finally allows the dream to end peacefully.
Before she leaves the forest entirely, Amelia finds a small wooden box under an oak tree. Inside is a photograph of her mother, and her grandmother. And written on the back is this lingering message: somewhere, every goodbye is also a beginning. This serves as a highly comforting, final emotional anchor for the reader. It leaves you with this incredible feeling of hope and renewal, gently settling the mind into the absolute perfect mindset to drift off.
But the author leaves us with one final, beautiful narrative hook. As Amelia walks toward the village, completely unknowing that someone connected to the house's secret is actually waiting for her, we get a final glimpse of the forest. The story tells us that far behind her, a golden light appears in an upstairs window of the house, waiting, patiently. The house has literally reset itself for the next person who needs to find their way home. It's a beautifully cyclical image that promises rest is always available whenever we might need it.
So here's a provocative question for you to ponder tonight. How can the mechanics of this story help you release your own 12-year burdens? As we've seen, effective sleeping story-making isn't just about soft voices and pretty words. It is a structured, intentional process of emotional unclenching. It's about finding that sensory dreamscape, addressing whatever guilt or anxiety is keeping you awake, and gently transitioning back to a state of absolute safety. I highly encourage you to apply this understanding to your own mindfulness routines. Think about what burdens you might be carrying that just don't belong to you, and allow yourself to grace to leave them behind in your own quiet forest. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you find your own peaceful rest.
Okay, have you ever wondered why certain stories instantly make your eyelids feel heavy, while others, just keep your mind racing until 3 a.m.? Well, in this explainer, we're diving deep into the actual craft of sleeping story making. We're going to break down the brilliant narrative architecture of Part 4 of The House Where Time Stood Still. It's honestly a masterclass in how words can literally alter our physiology. We're going to see exactly how a story takes us from a state of waking anxiety, walks us right through our unresolved thoughts, and ultimately gives us full permission to just rest. Consider the sheer simplicity of these sentences right here. The room was warm. A fire burned quietly. When you're trying to wind down, your brain is, it's basically scanning for threats, right? It's reviewing that awkward email you sent or the chores you completely forgot to do. But what the author does here is immediately hijack that threat response system. Just by stating that the room is warm and the fire is quiet, the text instantly grounds your senses. It establishes this safe, highly atmospheric environment. It's basically telling your nervous system, hey, you're safe here. You can stop scanning now. So the absolutely crucial point we're investigating today is exactly this. How does a story help us finally let go? We're going to follow the main character, Amelia, on her journey back to her childhood village. But as we look at Amelia's journey, I really want you to connect it directly to your own need to release the day's anxieties before sleep. You see, a truly great sleep story bypasses our rigid waking agenda entirely and speaks right to the subconscious. Let's look at exactly how this is constructed, step by step. Step 1, the return to quiet, grounding the senses in safety. Before a story can actually help you sleep, it has to physically slow you down. Take Amelia's arrival at her childhood village. In our source material, Amelia notices the high sun, the open bakery, children playing near the fountain. But listen, it's not just what she sees, it's how it's written. The author uses incredibly short, breathing-paced sentences. The bakery was open. Everything looked normal, almost too normal. This is definitely not an accident. When you read or listen to these short, rhythmic phrases, you naturally begin to sync your own breathing to the cadence of the words, and that actively lowers your heart rate. And notice the super specific details the author chooses here. A white painted door, a garden filled with flowers, a quiet fire inside. I mean, these are universal archetypes of domestic peace, right? These cozy elements mirror the exact safety cues our brains absolutely require to begin relaxing. We're moving from the loud, chaotic outside world into a sheltered, warm interior. The story is quite literally tucking you in. Moving on to stage 2, unlocking the past, addressing the emotional weight. Because before true rest can happen, a sleep story must gently acknowledge the emotional weight we carry. When Amelia finally faces her older, gray-haired father sitting by the window, we get this beautiful revelation that defines the core metaphor of the entire narrative. The physical house in the forest, it isn't made of wood and stone at all. As we learn through Amelia's journey, the house is a memory. It's a place created by those who cannot let go. The author brilliantly transforms a physical location into a psychological holding space for unresolved grief and anxiety. Honestly, when you're tossing and turning at night, you're kind of trapped in your own version of this house. And right here is where we discover the root of Amelia's emotional block. 8. This is the exact age Amelia was when her mother died. As she sits across from her father in that warm, quiet room, he reveals a pretty stunning truth. Amelia was never supposed to find the house until she was ready to remember. For 12 years, ever since she was 8 years old, she has been actively avoiding this memory. When Amelia asks why she forgot everything, the garden, the summer sky, her mother's death, her father just says, because you asked your grandmother to help you. Amelia actively chose to forget her sadness, her anger, and her loneliness, basically just because she wanted to be happy. But here's the thing, suppressing those feelings is exactly what creates the tension we hold on to. In sleeping story making, the narrative helps us softly bring that suppressed tension into the light, and that is an absolute prerequisite for true restorative rest. Which brings us to stage 3, the mother's message, the emotional catharsis.
So this massive emotional release is triggered when Amelia's father retrieves a hidden envelope from the bottom drawer of an old wooden cabinet. Notice how the author paces this moment. We don't just get an information dump. No way. We get a slow, super deliberate sequence. Opening the small envelope, recognizing her mother's handwriting, reading the painful truth, walking the listener step by step through the physical act of opening the letter completely mirrors the slow, physical release of tension in our own bodies. It literally forces the reader to slow down and prepare for a big emotional shift. Inside that envelope is a single sheet of paper from Amelia's mother, written before she died. And it contains this just breathtaking line. Every person who enters the house carries something they are afraid to lose. The mother explains that some carry grief, some carry regret, some carry love they believe they must leave behind. This completely shifts the entire narrative. We're no longer reading a mystery about a magical house in the woods. Actually, scratch that. It becomes a profound observation on grief, regret, and love. It completely validates the heavy feelings the reader might be carrying to bed with them. And this dichotomy right here creates the ultimate emotional catharsis of the story. The mother writes, "Do not make my death the ending of your life. Carry my love, not my absence." She understood that Amelia's greatest pain wasn't losing her mother, it was being terrified to live after losing her. By reframing the grief, shifting from carrying absence to carrying love, the mother gives Amelia permission to finally move forward. And mechanically speaking, this acts as a permission slip for the reader too. It softly whispers that it's completely okay to let go of your own daily burdens, your own fears of loss, and just exist peacefully. Stage 4, learning to let go, finding a peaceful resolution. Now that the really heavy emotional lifting is done, the narrative energy changes to this peaceful, forward momentum. Amelia physically leaves the cottage, and as she walks to the railway station at the far end of the village, the final pieces of her memory just cascade into place. 12 years ago, she made a promise to a boy named Daniel beneath an oak tree. When she was 8 and her mother died, Daniel was there. He held her hand while her whole world fell apart. But because she forced herself to forget the pain, she accidentally forced herself to forget Daniel too. He was the anchor she lost. And now, in the present day, they're finally reunited on the platform. Look at how masterfully the author transitions the mood with this realization. The silence between them was no longer painful. It was peaceful. Think back to when Amelia and her father first sat down. The silence was super heavy with unsaid things. But now the silence is light. The internal storm has completely passed. And guys, this is the exact state of mind a sleep story aims to leave you in. The conflicts are resolved, the mind is totally clear, and true rest is finally actually possible. And just as the reader reaches this incredible state of peace, the author drops in a literal auditory cue within the text. The old railway clock began to ring. 1, 2, 3. Think about how hypnotic that is. The rhythmic counting of the clock acts just like a metronome. It's a classic relaxation technique, but it's woven so seamlessly right into the story, drawing the listener deeper and deeper into a state of heavy, comfortable relaxation. So, as the clock chimes, the story's resolution totally crystallizes. Daniel kept his promise to remember her every single day. Amelia looks toward the forest and sees the golden light of the house shine one last time before it vanishes completely. Amelia finally understands the truth. The house had never been waiting for her to return. It had been waiting for her to let go. And because she finally let go of her fear, the holding place of her grief just disappears. Which brings us to our final stage. A final, lingering secret, fading into dreamlike ambiguity. You see, a truly great sleep story doesn't just end abruptly, right? It guides you into a gentle, fading state. The text tells us that there was still one final secret her grandmother had never told her, a secret about the house, a secret about Daniel, a secret about the nighttime stopped. By introducing this gentle, really low-stakes mystery right at the very end, the author ensures your brain doesn't just latch back onto your own real-world anxieties. Leaving a safe, gentle mystery unresolved gives the mind something soft and imaginative to wander toward as it inevitably drifts off to sleep. The mechanics we've explored in this explainer today, the sensory grounding, the release of emotional tension, the rhythmic pacing, and that gentle fade into ambiguity, these are the absolute core tools of sleeping storymaking. They're what allow a story to totally bypass our waking defenses. They remind us that the true power of a sleep story isn't just, distracting us, but in giving us the courage to stop our own internal clocks, let go of what we're carrying, and finally rest.
So as you wind down tonight, I want to leave you with this one thought. What secret is waiting for you when time stops?
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into part 5 of the incredible story, The House Where Time Stood Still. But, we aren't just doing a basic plot recap today. We're actually going to look at this text through a really specific, really fascinating lens, the mechanics of a sleeping story. We're going to see exactly how this narrative acts as an absolute masterclass in winding down our minds for rest. It's like a psychological roadmap for our brains. By resolving deep emotional tension, carefully pacing out its revelations, and moving from this cold, windy uncertainty right into warm closure, it gives us exactly what we need to finally just let go and sleep.
Okay, let's dive into this. We open right in the middle of a lingering mystery. Daniel and Amelia are standing on a freezing, windy, completely empty railway platform after the morning train has vanished. Literally, the sound of the wind is the only thing left. Amelia is, understandably, pressing Daniel for answers about this mysterious house out in the forest. And Daniel responds with a story his grandfather told him. He says, "When someone loses someone they love, they create a place inside themselves where time can stop." Wow, right? It's just such an incredibly atmospheric hook. It immediately pulls us out of the literal physical world and drops us into this deep internal space.
And this brilliantly illustrates the story's core concept. We're definitely not exploring some literal haunted house made of wood and nails here. No, the house is an emotional landscape. It's a psychological holding zone for grief. Daniel explains that the house doesn't actually keep people trapped. It just shows them what they're refusing to accept. Think about it. When we carry trauma or anxieties that we just can't process, our minds literally build walls around those feelings. And that is an absolutely vital concept in a sleeping story. We're externalizing our internal anxieties into a safe, metaphorical space, which lets us finally examine them without feeling overwhelmed.
Section 1. The Mystery of the House.
So notice the pacing here. The story shifts to match Amelia's racing heart as she stands on that empty platform. Everything looks ordinary, but absolutely nothing feels ordinary anymore. She asks the exact question we're all wondering. Then who built it? And Daniel just shakes his head and says no one knows. By asking this, the narrative pulls us directly into her mindset. In a sleep story, introducing a gentle mystery like this is super intentional. It engages your active mind just enough to distract it from real-world stresses. It focuses all your attention right onto a safe, fictional puzzle. Daniel goes on to elaborate on the nature of this place. He points out that while most people do eventually leave this psychological space, some people don't. The people who end up staying in the house are basically living in yesterday. They're remembering what was, and they're flat out refusing to accept what is. And then it hits Amelia. The house is a place for people who just can't let go. So she asks, well, why did she find it? Daniel's reply is so simple. He says, because you were ready. It's the story's way of telling us that to confront our deepest unresolved feelings, we literally just have to be ready to accept the present.
Section 2. A generational memory. Let's move to and see how this builds across the generations. We're shifting our pacing slightly here, moving away from that immediate anxiety of the unknown and settling into a calmer, much more historical cadence. Decades ago, Amelia's grandmother lost her own mother, found this house, and stayed there for years until Amelia's grandfather finally brought her back to reality. But here is the twist. The grandmother didn't go alone. She actually took Amelia's mother with her as a child. Fast forward to the present day, and Amelia has just returned to this exact same metaphorical space to process the loss of her own mother. The grief is an inherited cycle, just echoing straight through the decades.
And this brings us to a really profound revelation. Amelia asks why her mother completely forgot about the house. Daniel explains, because your mother was too young, she couldn't carry the memory, so your grandmother asked the house to take it away. Amelia suddenly remembers her mother's words, the house carries what we cannot carry. This right here is the first major emotional release of our sleeping story. It entirely reframes this eerie house. It goes from being a place of ghosts into a place of profound protection. It's a beautiful sensory motif of unburdening ourselves from weights that are just way too heavy to bear.
Section 3. The truth about Daniel. As the narrative softens even further, we finally leave that cold railway station and start walking back toward the warmth of her father's home. The active mystery is basically dissolving right into intimate emotional truth. And this perfectly mirrors our body's physical transition from the hustle of the day to the calm of the evening. As they're walking in quiet reflection, Amelia asks Daniel this absolutely heartbreaking question. She says,
Why did you never come looking for me? The twist here is staggering. Daniel stops and reveals that he did. He came to her house every single day from months after her mother died. But Amelia didn't know him, because in the wake of her mother's death, she forgot everyone.
So, this brings up the tragic irony of Amelia's existence. Daniel explains that she forgot everyone, literally everyone except her father, her grandmother, and him. Why? Because she truly believed that everyone she loved would eventually disappear. So she just stopped letting people get close. She spent 12 whole years moving from place to place, never staying, never letting herself get attached. In that moment, Amelia realizes that by trying so hard to protect herself, she had actually been living inside the emotional house her entire life, even after she had physically left it. She was totally trapped in yesterday.
When they finally reach her father's house, the final pieces just fall into place. Her father confirms that Daniel really was there every single day, keeping a promise to Amelia's mother. And what was that promise? Well, it wasn't to look after Amelia. As Daniel puts it, she asked me to remind you that life was still waiting. Her mother knew she'd be terrified and that she would forget, so she arranged for someone to help her remember. This narrative beat is such a vital lesson in letting go. It shows us that even in our absolute most isolated moments, we're never truly alone. The structural tension of the story is now entirely resolved. Section 4. Letting go of yesterday. We now enter the deep wind-down phase of the story. Picture this scene. Amelia, her father, and Daniel are all sitting together by a softly fading fire. They're laughing, they're crying, and the memory of her mother doesn't feel like this giant gaping wound anymore. During this quiet evening, Amelia comes to a beautiful realization. The past wasn't asking her to return to it. It was just asking her to remember and then to continue. It highlights that healing doesn't mean forgetting our pain or ignoring our memories. True rest comes from accepting the wound so that tomorrow can actually happen. We acknowledge the feelings, and then we finally give ourselves permission to move forward. Or, in the listener's case, permission to finally sleep.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this emotional closure translates directly into a physical, sensory wind-down routine. Later that night, Amelia goes upstairs to her dark bedroom. She opens the small wooden box she remembered from her childhood. Inside, she finds a silver key and a little piece of paper with 4 words: "Time waits for no one." She looks out, sees a golden light in the distant forest, and realizes someone else is just beginning their journey. So she places the key back and closes the lid. She just doesn't need it anymore. She is physically putting her past away, perfectly mimicking the routine of preparing for sleep. Section 5. Choosing tomorrow.
As the final mysteries of the night start to unfold in the absolute quiet darkness of Amelia's bedroom, the volume of the narrative drops into a really rhythmic, soft tone. The past is the past, and only the future remains. Just before she drifts off, she hears a soft sound coming from the empty hallway, a hallway where there is no clock. Tick, tick, tick. This auditory rhythm is magnificent. It acts just like the ticking clock of a hypnotist or a soothing, repetitive lullaby before you sleep. It grounds Amelia and us, the listener, in the steady, unstoppable, but comforting march of time moving forward.
She opens the door to the empty hallway and hears the whispered voice of her grandmother delivering one last powerful message. The house doesn't only stop time, it gives people one chance to change their future. And there it is, the ultimate emotional release. The house was never a trap, it's a reset button. It brought her back to the past, not to keep her stuck there, but so she could finally choose what happens next. The ticking sound just fades away, leaving Amelia in total peaceful silence as the very first stars appear outside her window.
Let's just contrast her internal state for a second to really see the profound effectiveness of this narrative structure. Before this journey, Amelia was living in yesterday. She was refusing to accept reality and absolutely terrified that everyone she loved would disappear. But after safely confronting these metaphors and finding closure, her mindset completely shifts. She is no longer afraid of tomorrow. For the first time in 12 years, she's actually curious about it. The story has safely guided her, and us, from a state of high anxiety to a place of peaceful, restorative closure.
But a good sleep story always leaves a gentle little thread for the imagination to softly hold on to as we drift off. The narrative tells us Amelia has one final journey waiting for her back out in the forest right where the house once stood. She has one last question. So I leave you with this to think about. What answer do you think is waiting beneath the oldest oak tree? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it brought you some peace, and I'll see you next time.
Welcome, focused learners, to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating. We're going to break down the conclusion of a really beautifully written story called The House Where Time Stood Still. But we aren't just looking at this as your standard narrative. No, we are going to deconstruct this text as a literal masterclass in the mechanics of sleeping story making. We're going to look at the exact architectural choices the author makes to gently guide the human brain out of a state of wakeful tension and into deep, restful sleep.
It's a pretty gentle question, but it's a really important one. What actually makes a story the perfect place to fall asleep? Think about it for a second. A normal thriller or even a heavy drama is designed to keep you awake, right? It wants you turning pages, it spikes your adrenaline. But a sleeping story has to do the exact opposite of that. It has to engage your imagination just enough to distract you from your own racing thoughts, while simultaneously lowering your cognitive load so your brain feels safe enough to just shut down. So let's explore exactly how this story achieves that delicate balance. Section 1, setting a peaceful scene. Atmospheric hooks. The story opens with our protagonist, Amelia, waking up before sunrise. She remembers her promise to return to the forest, and she prepares to leave. This right here is the atmospheric hook of the source material. Notice how it doesn't drop us into some fast-paced action sequence. It drops us straight into stillness. Notice how incredibly specific the author is with their sensory details here. We have a pale blue light covering the rooftops, a completely quiet sleeping village, a simple wooden box, and a strangely warm silver key. The text uses this highly specific, gentle grounding imagery for a very real biological reason: to instantly lower your heart rate. By asking your brain to visualize cool colors like pale blue, absolute quiet, and simple tactile objects like a warm key, the story establishes a profoundly safe space.
Section 2, the rhythm of rest, establishing a pace. Because once the scene is set, the story has to actually establish a rhythm. As Amelia walks along the old path toward the oldest oak tree, the very structure of the text itself begins to change. Standard storytelling usually relies on long, complex paragraphs. That creates a high cognitive load where your brain has to work pretty hard to parse all the syntax. But a sleep story, it utilizes short, isolated phrases. Things like, "She didn't know where she was. Then she remembered." These incredibly short, fragmented sentences are architecturally designed to mimic slow, steady breathing. The actual white space on the page forces the reader, or the narrator, to just pause. Inhale, exhale. The text is literally pacing your breath. And this all builds into a very distinct narrative structure: the steps to surrender. Amelia's psychological journey acts as a direct blueprint for your own journey to sleep. First, she returns to the forest, which symbolizes entering a calm mind. She uses that silver key on a small moss-covered door at the base of an oak tree to find a wooden box. Second, she reads the letter inside, gently confronting the past. Third, she accepts time passing, releasing tension. And finally, she lets the house disappear, directly mirroring the listener surrendering to sleep. It is a perfectly mapped psychological descent. Section 3, releasing emotional tension, emotional unburdening. We've slowed the breathing, we've set the scene, now we have to deal with the mind. To sleep peacefully, psychological unburdening has to occur. And we see this play out perfectly as Amelia explores the contents of her grandmother's hidden letter. The crucial point is captured right in this quote from the grandmother's letter. "The house does not stop time, it stops us." This is such a profound realization. In the context of sleeping story making, resolving cognitive tension is absolutely vital. The tension around memories, fear, the inability to say goodbye, that's the stuff that keeps us awake at night, staring at the ceiling. By having Amelia realize that the house isn't some magical trap, but rather that people trap themselves with their own regrets, the story acts as a psychological release valve for the reader. Let's look a little closer at the truth of the house. It is a story, not a building. It's created by memory, it gives understanding, not more time, and it traps people who wait for the perfect time. Amelia learns here that the house was never actually about death, it had always been about life. This specific revelation gently, almost invisibly, removes anxiety from the narrative. The listener's subconscious just absorbs this message of forgiveness and letting go, which is so essential for deep rest. And this brilliantly illustrates how the story manages cognitive load, even when introducing a plot twist. Amelia finds a century-old photograph beneath the letter,
showing a young man she actually recognizes as Old Man Daniel from the village. The timeline is super simple. Daniel was the first to enter 100 years ago, followed by her grandparents, then her mother, and now Amelia today. The temporal twist of meeting the immortal Old Man Daniel in the forest is resolved so smoothly and clearly in the text that your brain doesn't have to work hard to understand it. There is no confusion to keep you awake, only a gentle, totally satisfying resolution. Section 4, the hypnotic transition, slowing down. As we examine the story's hypnotic audio motif, you'll start to notice the pacing of the narrative, and even the pacing of my own voice beginning to slow down even further. The pitch drops slightly. The energy settles. We are crossing the threshold now. Inside the wooden box, Amelia finds a stopped golden watch left by her mother, inscribed with the words, "Live before the clock stops." In the source text, we see this single word isolated on the page, tick. Initially, this ticking represents the very thing that keeps us awake at night, the fear of running out of time, the sheer anxiety of the clock. But then, Amelia speaks with the old man, Daniel. He tells her that the greatest gift of time is knowing it will eventually end. He explains that some people leave the house carrying more time than they entered with. This revelation completely shifts Amelia's perspective. As she decides to go home and finally lets the house disappear into the trees, the text gives us a softer, more rhythmic repetition. Tick, tick. And finally, we arrive here. Tick, tick, tick. Life is moving. Notice the psychological alchemy taking place. The ticking transforms entirely. It is no longer a symbol of anxiety or some stressful countdown. It becomes a soothing, rhythmic metronome. It signals to Amelia and to you, the reader, that the natural rhythm of life is okay. It is finally safe to rest. Section 5. Embracing the final sleep. The edge of rest. The mystery is solved, the tension is gone. Amelia returns to the quiet, star-filled village to find her father and young Daniel waiting for her. The text adopts a highly soothing, almost whispered cadence here, gently guiding us to the very edge of sleep. You don't need to stop time to keep something beautiful. Just let that sink in for a second. This is the core aphorism of the narrative. The narrator explains that the memories we carry aren't meant to hold us prisoner. They are meant to remind us that we were once loved and that happiness can absolutely happen again. We don't need to tightly grip the past. We can carry our memories gently in the heart. It is a profound, beautiful permission to just let go. As the story closes, the narrator completely breaks the fourth wall and directly addresses the reader. So, if tonight you find yourself thinking about the past, remember, Amelia, the text explicitly guides your mind away from the regrets of yesterday. It tells you to let the clock move forward. It points your mind toward the beautiful, unlived chapters of tomorrow. It takes that burden of the past right off your shoulders so you can actually just sleep in the present. And so, we reach the end of the architecture. The text has successfully lowered your heart rate, paced your breathing, released your emotional tension, and given you full permission to rest. Which leaves us with this final, calming question derived straight from the source. Are you ready to let the clock move forward? Because tomorrow is still waiting for you. Good night, and sleep peacefully.
you.